Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be bringing you a RWBY Volume 8 chapter. I'll go through chapter by chapter. I was going to do it as more of a scenario. No. This will be fight scenes. So RWBY Volume 8 was chock full of some pretty short fight scenes up until the end when they had to have a lot of, like, 3, I think it was. Technically 2, but I'm going to say 3 climaxing type of fights. But we're going to talk about all of them, no matter how long or short they were. So, I'm going to start with the Hound versus Orange, aka Oscar, Ren, Nora, and Jean. Not Nora. What am I talking about? Nora wasn't there. Yang was there. Orgy? No. Excuse that word. But, so Yang, Jean, Ren, and Oscar. So this fight was pretty short because it wasn't really a fight. I believe it was more of to display what the Hound can do to set it up for later. To break it down real quick, because a lot of you probably have already seen it that watch this video. Oscar immediately gets taken out within like a couple minutes. No, not even minutes, like seconds, basically. Aura broken and all that. Then the others react after that. Yang kind of gets, just slapped into the building and is momentarily taken out of the equation. Same with Jean and Ren, who don't do much better than either of the other two did. The Hound was then told by Ren to put Oscar down. The Hound actually said no, which is the first time we've seen a Grimm say no. And then ran off to then be chased by the 4. Well, 3. Yeah, but this was mainly to showcase what the Hound is, what it could do, and exactly how much power it held. It just basically slapped all 4 of them around like they were nothing. To me, that was a good way to introduce a new Grimm and show off just how powerful it is and how much of a threat it is. This will be brought up again later because it has come back out in the last like 4, 5, 6. No, right after the half thing, which I think was episode 8 or 9. So we have that fight. I believe it was a good way to introduce the Grimm, but not really a fight. Either way, though, it's going to be called one because technically there was action, which immediately warrants it being called a fight. Next up was Penny versus the Aesops. Now, this was more of a fight. It was a pretty evenly matched fight for the most part until basically Marrow used his stay semblance. That kind of turned the tide. But Penny held her own against Harriet, Elm, Vine, and Marrow for a decent amount of the episode in terms of time. They did eventually get the upper hand. Was about to arrest her. Nora then charged herself up, blew up the door that then flew at them. This released the other 4, which was Weiss, Blake, Nora, Ruby, and then obviously Penny was already out there. Nora's aura broke and she was out of commission for much of the volume. Afterwards, however, instead of Ironwood sending troops after them, Watts talked to him. They stole a sword from Penny after separating the others from her by basically slapping them off the bridge that they were on, forcing Ruby to have to use her semblance to catch them instead of help Penny. They retreat, and that ends it. Now, this was a pretty good fight, more evenly matched, as I already mentioned. However, this was mainly to show a difference between a not so experienced maiden versus the Aesops. Now, Penny is obviously also a robot, so she has that going for her as well. So her combination versus the Aesops, pretty evenly matched. The Aesops obviously still had the numbers game, eventually took, control of it. Then once the numbers were in their favor, they had to cut their losses, take one thing, leave. They could not take Penny like they were ordered to. But I believe this was a good showcase of team. Those 4 kind of working more as a team again, even without Clover. And also shows how good of a fighter Penny actually is with or without the maiden powers being used. This time it was with, but either way, great fight, loved it. Now let's talk Now, I'm not gonna actually talk about the 3 that were chasing the Hound that has wings and through the thing with all the Sentinels. There's not really reason to. It was a chase scene. There wasn't really any fighting. A couple of them were killed, but it would literally just be like a throwaway scene. After that, hold on, give me one okay, yeah, now I remember. I want to make sure I got these in order. So we have Cinder and Neo versus Maria and Penny. This was an amazing fight, in my opinion. It showed what Penny and Cinder could do when they were both maidens. Pretty good matchup there, and really what did Cinder in there was her overconfidence, as it usually does, her ego, as it usually does, and Penny being a robot and having heat signatures really did them in, because Emerald was actually there as well and tried to use the hallucination thing to make her see multiple Cinders. Heat signature showed what the real one was. Took Cinder out. Neo was then taken out by Penny after taking Maria out of the equation somewhat. But overall, this was a very good fight to me. It showed how skilled Neo is. It gave us a Maria fight when she's in her current state. How Penny and Cinder are, obviously, no one doubts how good Cinder is as a fighter, nor Penny, and this kind of reinforces it quite a bit, in my opinion. After this, next up, I believe, is the Hound and some other Grimm versus Blake, Weiss, and RWBY. This was a pretty good episode, because a lot of this was in one episode, just kind of spaced out so other development can be done. The Hound and whatever the other thing was, I don't even know what the name was, kind of separated Weiss from Blake and RWBY. Blake and RWBY dealt with the thing that was spitting up acid. Blake did a lot of the fighting in that, after RWBY was first knocked to the ground by the Hound quite forcefully, and then dropped from the air by the Hound, and that broke her aura. So she had no real hand in that fight until the end of it. Blake did a lot of the fighting. Her aura was damaged, but not broken entirely. And as she was about to get finished off, RWBY comes up from behind, uses her scythe, kills the thing, boom, done. The Hound was basically chased throughout the house, or was doing the chasing throughout the house, either or. A lot of the fighting was Weiss shooting ice at it, summoning, cutting it off from going, against her family, basically. Which sooner or later Penny screamed, because that's who the Hound was actually after. That led to Penny being knocked down by it. The Hound being silver-eyed by RWBY out a window. It came back showing a silver-eyed warrior underneath it. They were backed into a corner, and then Willow and Whitley tipped the statue on top of it, killing it right then and there. I think this was actually a pretty fun thing to watch. Let's talk about the RWBY and Blake one first. It showed the fighting prowess of Blake, but it also showed how the Grimm have evolved into less of a body count and more of, some of them more of a intellectual type of embodiment, basically. I do like the Hound as well. The Hound did a lot of the heavy lifting in that episode. And a lot of people complained about Willow and Whitley tipping the statue over on top of it to kill it. I have no problem no matter how they do it, as long as it's somewhat creative and somewhat fun to watch, which in my opinion this was. Next up we have... Was there any more fights after that? I mean, there was Hazel having his face turned more or less for the last, couple minutes he was alive against Salem. This showed how well Hazel is actually as a fighter. He was holding back in Haven. He went all out against Salem. Technically, I guess, killed her more than once. And then he had to perish by Ozpin's magic power to destroy the whale, Salem, and him to buy the others time to escape and try to help the others escape as well. To me, this was pretty good. Pretty good. What was the other fight that happened after that? Can't remember. But there was A lot of the finale episode was fights as well. And that I kind of think is the most difficult one to grade because they were cutting between 3 fights the entire time during that episode. So I'm going to start with what I think is the easiest one to break down. We're going to do the... let's do the Crow and Harriet one first. Crow and Harriet scene kind of started in the episode before the finale, as did the last 2 on this list as well. It was seemingly a pretty evenly matched fight. It had more of Crow trying to talk Harriet out of what she was doing, and Harriet being stubborn to the command she was given. It ended when Elman Vine showed up and finally talked her down from blowing up Mantle, which ended the fight. I believe this was fun because it showed how skilled Harriet was and Crow were individually as fighters, with Crow kind of holding back in it because she was trying to talk her out of it instead of actually defeating her. And so it was a very fun episode, or a very fun fight. Next, we kind of have the Team RWBY versus Cinder. And Neo. This was fighting all over the place. Yang fell first, so it was basically 3-on-2 or 4-on-2 technically because Penny was there. Cinder and I think very much carried by Neo. Neo showed how good she was, as we all know she is, against both Weiss, RWBY, and a little bit of Blake. I think without her, Cinder would have lost 100%. Technically, the villains won the day, but I don't know. I just feel like fight-wise, this could have been a little bit better, but it still was not bad enough to where I can give it much negatives at this point in time. So Neo got that kind of taken care of, even though she was kind of cut off by Cinder as well. But fun fight regardless. Showed that the others had a little longer to go before they can actually stand toe-to-toe with her, and Cinder has gotten smarter, but it took until Volume 8 in the last couple episodes for her to finally grow a couple of brain cells. So to me, it doesn't salvage her character. And then we have... Penny died too, in case you guys didn't see the episode. Sorry for the spoiler. Then we had Winter versus Ironwood. This was... first domed by Winter, then Ironwood, and then back to Winter again. Winter ended up winning that fight after Penny's death. She got the Maiden powers, basically deflected a laser that Ironwood had back at him, thus finishing him off. Then we had the final fight, which was Winter versus Cinder, as everyone would have expected from them both having Maiden powers. It was kind of short, obviously. It was kind of in the closing moments of the volume. There was about maybe 10 minutes left. No, it was like 7 minutes. But it was a very fun mini fight to watch. Cinder did end up basically having to distract her with Jean and Weiss trying to escape to get the win. So to me, Winter would have won. Either way, it was good for a character death for everyone all around in that finale episode with all those fights. But overall, what grade would I give the fights as a whole? Even though a lot of them were short, and a lot of them didn't seem to serve that much of a purpose to the naked eye, I think I will give the fights in the volume a B+, A-, so 85, 90, like 5 out of 100. There's a few things I would change, but that will be discussed in a video where I just talk about what I would change for each category, character, whatever. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, if you have any conflicting things with my opinions in the entirety of just the fights, don't go into anything else, please, in these comments. These are specifically talking for the fights. Please comment down below. Give me your opinions on them. Give me what you thought, they could have done differently. Maybe that'll be influential to what I say they should have changed. Or maybe it lines up with what I wanted to change. But I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.